is here. The champ 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 is here.
All right, the Commish Radio Show. Loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, was second to none. I'm a little stuck on myself because I graduated from Carter High School, the Carter High. You like how I did that?
I do.
Yeah. So we have right now today, we have a Commish Radio Show hosted by Ed Gray. And I got this out where everyone can see it. I want you to share this because since they did these new algorithms on Facebook, they're trying to downgrade a brother. We used to get like thousands of people. I would look on there and be like, 1,000 people saw that? And that was just an hour ago? And now what we have to do now is we have to actually ask you to share it to those groups. So Stephen Poole's with us today. I see it says give stars to support Ed Gray. You see that down there?
I sure do.
Okay, so let's go ahead and give some stars to support Ed Gray because this radio podcast show gets by on, it gets by on faith, but also it gets by on dollars, faith and dollars. So you need those things to put this radio podcast on, so let's share that as well. This radio show, as I've often said, loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, was second to none. Since KHVN has been off the air, and I was one of the last radio hosts that were over there before we went off the air, there have been very few shows that have been interviewing political candidates. And this is the political candidate season that we have for our municipal elections, which means a school board and city council. In my old area of town, and which is dear to my heart, Dallas, Texas, and DISD District 6 trustee election, we have one of the candidates here, Stephen Poole, who's here. So I'll let him introduce himself. Stephen, what's going on, man?
How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah,
in person again.
I see you got your Carter High School pen going on. I like that.
Yeah, I'm actually a part of the alumni board.
Okay, get the mic a little closer to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad you have. Glad to be here.
Well, I am glad that you are here as well. I want to kick it with you for a little while. I wish you had been here earlier. Earlier in the campaign season, but this is right now. Next week is when you actually start voting, right?
Exactly. Monday is actually early voting.
Wait a minute, Monday?
Monday is early voting.
Wow, it just sneaked up on me, man.
So I think we right on time.
You're on time.
Yeah, this is when it needs to happen.
It needs to happen right there.
Exactly.
Couldn't plan any better than that. Monday. I said, what? Monday?
Exactly. Monday is early voting. Right now, I'm just beating the pavement, going from community to community, neighborhood to neighborhood. I'm up and down through the Oak Cliff area by Carter, by Kimball. Some of it is in Singing Hills. Some of it is in the Highland Hills area, and I'm enjoying it. I didn't realize that it would be so tumultuous and time-consuming, but luckily I've had some good volunteers, and they believe in what I'm telling them and what they see. Our goal primarily is to make sure that our students in those communities are given an opportunity like they're given anywhere else in the state or anywhere else in the city or anywhere else in the country. My three main points, policy, equity, and program accountability. And those three things are PEP. And the reason why it's called PEP, we need to put a little bit more PEP into what we're doing in our community for our students. In 2013-14, House Bill 5 was passed, and it was about pathways. And when we look at the pathways that are being offered to the students in the Carter and Kimball feeder pattern, what we're seeing is that they're not receiving what we would consider livable wage pathways. So, for example, Carter High School has been aligned with Atwell for years. Atwell, or now it's called Judge
Louis A. Bedford.
There you go.
Yeah, I graduated from Atwell too.
And law school, the law academy at Atwell feeds directly into Carter High School. Well, there's a beautiful, beautiful courtroom in Carter High School. But the problem is the pathway is only built right now academically for kids to receive a certificate in security guards. So if you want kids to be successful in a city where the livable wage is between $75,000 to $80,000, being a security guard is not what you want them to have to do. You want them to have pathways that are aligned so that if they choose to go to college, they have an understanding and a background, and if they choose not to, they have an opportunity to be successful. The other thing is policy. When you watch school board meetings, what we're seeing is that some of the policies aren't being followed. And there's been time and time again where you go to the board meetings and you're hearing where unions and individuals are speaking on how the board members aren't following policy. And what we're finding is they're not really knowledgeable of policy. Most of them are business people, or they have a background in something else, so they don't take the time to learn the policy. They're just moving through the motions on things. And then when you talk about equity, a lot of people speak on racial equity. Right now, the biggest fight that we've been fighting in our community where I live, which is in the Oak Cliff area off of Redbird Lane, is just making sure that our students receive what they need. There's a big thing about having artistic black boxes. And for us, that's a beautiful thing. But why would I have an artistic black box when the auditorium hadn't been done since the school was built? So why wouldn't we redo the auditorium first? Why wouldn't we give our girls a dance studio that's comparable to any other dance studio around the Metroplex? But instead, the girls' dance studio is they just moved it because of conversations that we've been having. They moved it to a room that used to be a choir room instead of them building out like they were supposed to in the initial build out. Carter was actually included in a $56 million package from the last bond. The problem that we're seeing is we're wondering where the money has been spent. And the person that's responsible for budgeting it out is the trustee. So our common question from the Alumni Association to the site base to the PTSA is, where's the money? Why is it that these things haven't been taken care of? And why is it that the equity that we should have received for our students is not visible?
Okay. Now, you just nailed all that down, and you just went straight to it just like that. Why and how? And this is the question.
Mm-hmm.
Why and how are you going to beat the trustee that's been there for, how long has she been there?
She's been there 9 years, 3 terms.
3 times.
Yeah, she came in after Carla Ranger stepped away. And the thing about it is, I need people to understand that in our society, there has to be a point where you recognize someone who has done the work and can continue the work. At one point or another, you have to realize someone has come to an end of what their capabilities are. Just like in any corporation, you have a parachute that you give the CFO or the CEO who's been there for 20, 30 years, and you don't just get rid of them, you make them a consultant. You know what their worth is, but you know that the seat that they're sitting in is no longer conducive for the growth of the company. At this point, DISD needs change, especially in District 6. And it's time for that seat for the company to change. Over the last, you could say, 9 to 10 years, I've worked in spaces with the current trustee. From when we talked about the pathways, conversations with executive directors, conversation with district officials, to even the reopening of Hull C Middle School. When the current trustee ran, her goal was to reopen Hull C. But when she ran, I presented her with a committee and the proposal, and with my committee and my proposal that we got from the district, we submitted it. The district didn't accept our proposal, but they took our concept, which is a STEM school. So the goal was for us to be able to make sure that Carter had the same kind of pathways so that those kids, even though it's a choice school, would still feed into Carter High School.
All right. Now, for those of the people that are listening right now, I just want to let you guys know that myself and Mr. Poole, we graduated from Carter High School. I graduated in 1980. What year you graduated?
91.
91. You walked in my footsteps.
I agree, and I appreciate that.
So That being said, though, you far exceeded the footsteps that I set in front of you, because I'm looking at your flyer, and flyer also states that you are the current past president of the D.W. Carter High School. What does that mean?
So I am now the PTSA president right now at Carter High School.
You're the current
I'm
PSTA.
I'm the current PSTA president.
Said past. I read it wrong. Go ahead.
So with that being said, I've been involved intensely in the PTSA and the Site Base, which is a committee of community people, alumni, and parents in reference to what happens with our branding package. So Dallas even has gotten to a point where they realize that when you have changes in administration, people come in with their own ideas. And they literally make changes that have nothing to do with the school. So you saw the lapel pin I have,
Right.
which is a Carter High School staple, our mascot. The last principal didn't put it in our branding package because he didn't like it.
Why didn't okay.
You see how you puzzled you look?
Right.
So what's happening is you have people who don't honor traditions. So then when you have kids that come in and you ask them, what are your traditions or what's your mascot? They'll say CC. CC is the initials. It's not the mascot. So when we had these conversations with our principal, our executive directors, in the last, I guess you could say in the last 9 years that the trustee that's in place has been there, we've had over 15 executive directors over the 3 to 4 principals. And the problem that we have is a lack of consistency and a lack of transparency on what needs to happen in the schools. So what I did was I actually got involved at Kimball, and I was on their committee for their pathway for their hospitality committee. And what I saw was the
And
same
you from
thing.
Carter and you got involved with Kimball.
Well, it's a community thing. What I realized, most people don't realize, the only time that I left Oak Cliff was when I went to college.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Texas Southern University.
Okay.
And I spent that time in college, and I came back home. I'm an only child. I have 2 children. I'm married, and I've been here ever since. But what I saw was that there was a disparity in what our students were receiving as far as pathways, educational opportunities that are supposed to be afforded to them. But the people that were in place didn't understand how to implement them, and they didn't. It felt like they didn't believe that our students could achieve at higher levels. They would give them minuscule positions like pathways for security versus pathways for law or pathways for accounting, things like that. Prime example: one of my classmates is a realtor, and she's literally working at one of the magnet schools in Dallas ISD because they have a commercial and residential real estate course piped to the city. So these kids are going to graduate knowing how to flip, buy, and to negotiate getting houses from the city. Why wouldn't you have that in a community school? So when you bring those things up, I don't know if these kids are really prepared for that. They're prepared for whatever you teach them. The reason why I say that, I've been in education 17 years. I started as a hall monitor. I've been a community liaison, a classroom teacher.
Well, now, what is a community?
So a community liaison is a wonderful job.
Because I know people want to get that job. Why?
Well, what you do is you spend a lot of time connecting businesses and people who want to donate services, be it financially or whatever the students may need, to the school that you're responsible for.
Okay.
And you spend a lot of time networking. And when you
get paid for that?
You get paid for that. The district has positions.
So that's the reason why.
Yeah,
So
primarily.
Because they want to go around talk.
That's it.
Be important.
That's it.
I'm just being real.
That's it.
I'm
That's
just
it.
being real.
So I use it as the stepping stone financially. I came into the district as a hall monitor. I was already degreed. I was transitioning from another career. And then I went into being a community liaison, got certified as a teacher, got my master's in educational leadership. I've
But
been
when
a
did you get your
specialist.
master's?
I got my master's at Concordia in Austin.
Okay.
And
What year was that?
It was in 2012.
2012?
2012.
Because I think I first met you at one of the Carter High School picnics.
Correct.
Yeah.
So my goal, once I really got in tune with what was going on, was what are we doing for our community? Because a lot of times people who don't work with kids look at kids and say they're all not functioning well. That's not necessarily the case. Just like when we were younger, if you don't pour into them, they have nothing to move forward with. You have to start pouring into them.
All right. So you're saying you're closer in line because you're with the kids. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that, but also I'm saying I'm closer in line with running for this seat primarily because I've been doing the work behind the scenes as well. I've worked closely with this trustee over the whole span of the 9 years that she was in the seat. And that goes from working from reopening Hulsey to concerns in the community when it came to charter, when it came to different things at Carter High School, and just insight on how to maneuver certain things educationally. So that's been a lot of our conversations over the years.
You get along with her?
We were very, very good with one another up until
You decided to
last
run
year.
against?
It was actually before that. It was one of those things where you realize that your values or your purpose is different. My rationale for what I'm doing is different than the rationale for what that person is doing. So therefore, when information is shared, it's not necessarily used for the reason that you thought it would be used for. It's used for something else. So you just stop giving information.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give the folks at home some information as well. We're going to put up your flyer. We're going to play some music in the background, and we're going to come back in 30 seconds. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Stephen Poole for DISD District 6 trustee. You got one of them names that, you know, Poole, and people just, they do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They call
I
me
know, we're
Poole.
from the same hood.
Exactly.
We do that. All right, let's put the flyer up, and we'll be right back.
Free spirit, free mind, free from paper, free from the pressure to be equal. And I hope to find that love that's deep inside. Sweet sounds of the ocean flow makes it easy to let it all go. And if it's
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
Commish Radio Show back again. I'd like to thank all of you who are listening and looking at us on Facebook. Continue to share this through Ed Gray 1906 on Twitter and Ed Gray 1906 on Instagram as well. And Roku. We're on Roku. We have a Roku channel as well. So look that up on Viz TV. That's what you got, man. We got all that stuff going on, man.
I see you all over the place.
I'm trying to be this, and I had KHVN and I had WFAA. I didn't have to do all that then. I just was on. It was on and was on.
Hey, you've been doing this for a while. We've been watching in the community. I said,
Well,
man, this is what Carter people do. They step out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've always said, I always tell jokes about Carter High School, but I ain't got number love for two things, Carter High School and Oak Cliff. That's my hood. So if I ever tell a joke about it, it's with great love and affection. It's not being disparaging at all. So that's what it is, love and affection and admiration for anyone that's doing public service. Stephen Poole, you got a excellent flyer out. Let's talk about some of the things here. But before we talk about that, just straight up, me and you talking, and the folks that are listening as well, when you decided to run for election, have you been getting some kind of pushback from folks?
Well, yeah, the pushback is different, I think, in our community. And the reason for it is that you have individuals who have had relationships with people for so long. And a lot of times the thought of who they want to represent them is based in the relationship, not necessarily based in who actually can do the work all the time. And I think also my community is an older community. So for me, a lot of times they still look at us as youngsters. Even on I got my AARP card last year.
Did it hurt your feelings like
Oh
it hurt
my
mine?
God. When I saw it, I was like, no, not for me,
They
not
sent
for
me
me.
one at 45, and I went like, what are you talking about? I'm not even 50 yet. Why are you sending this to
It
me?
seemed like they recruiting like the military.
They doing it.
I was like, oh my God. But
My producer, he ain't got his ARP card yet. They gonna send you one, Angelo.
you going to
Trust
feel
me.
some kind of way about
You
it,
gonna
too.
feel some kind of way, man.
Exactly. So the thing is, I'm not a youngster. I've actually what we would say, earn my stripes. Someone called me a humanitarian because I look at all of our children. I've never been a guy who said, well, this is a better situation for these colored children or that colored children. My thing is children. I've had the privilege of working from elementary to middle school to high school, and I've actually worked three and a half years as an assistant principal at a charter, which was Dallas Can. And Dallas Can is an alternative where kids have actually failed in other areas, and they come there to kind of recover and go back to their home schools if the opportunities permit itself.
What we
But
used to call back in the day Metro.
that part, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
I'm telling my age for real now. So
Yeah,
send you to Metro.
Yeah.
What?
So I have over 23 years working with kids. I've been in education 17. I have education that stretches from just a bachelor's in public affairs, minor in sociology. I have a master's in educational leadership, certified teacher. And I've been blessed to be able to work with kids and work with different people in different capacities, from, like I said, a hall monitor, community liaison, all the way up to an AP, which is an assistant principal, and a district specialist.
So when you was a hall monitor, okay, I vision hall monitors.
So
tell me what. Okay, let's go back.
I think a hall monitor is probably one of the hardest jobs in education because you spend most of your time
telling people get to class.
and you're trying to be philosophical about it or psychological about it, and you have to always have your head where it's calm because you never know what may be said to you by a student. And you never know what the situation may bring depending on the day, and you're always on your feet. So I was like, you know what? I'm glad I was able to transition into education this route, but let me get this certification so I can keep moving on up financially and keep on moving on up so I can be where I need to be as far as just really truly instilling some things in the students.
So 17 years doing that.
Yeah, 17 years in education so far.
So this job that you are applying for, and the people have to bless it, if you will,
Yeah.
through voting for you. How much does that pay?
Nothing.
Okay. Let me see this. Okay, I know it doesn't pay anything. I just want you guys to know that when you're a school board trustee, you get paid
Nothing. You get paid nothing. It's basically you're doing it because you want to see some major changes happen in your community. You want to represent your community in reference to education, city business, because a lot of people tend to forget there are bonds that come through the school board. There are different policies that may need to be made or adhered to. So there are a lot of things that play a big part. Dallas ISD has owned more physical property than the city of Dallas. So those are other nuances that you have to be aware of as well. So this job is, I don't want to call it a thankless job, but it's a payless job. So you have to have a real job, and then you have to make time for this as well. Luckily, my kids are grown, so I have a lot more time.
How many
than
kids you
others.
have?
I have two. I have a son, Stephen Todd Poole Jr., and then I have a daughter, Tyler Azalea. You said you went to SMU?
Right.
But she got her master's at SMU.
Yeah, well, we have that in common too. Got my master's from
Exactly.
SMU too.
So with that being said, he's 29 and she's 28, and I don't have to worry about that.
Up.
Hey, I will.
All right, now, but I always say the first degree I received was a high school diploma from Carter High School.
That part.
You can't get no SMU degrees unless you get a degree, a high school degree, and
Absolutely.
that came from Carter High School.
Absolutely. I think that growing up in Oak Cliff during the time frame that you and I grew up was probably one of the best opportunities I've ever had in my life. When I went to college, I would meet guys who would be amazed that I went to Carter High School, or that I was even from Oak Cliff, and they were from New York or from California, and they were just like, "You're from," and they would actually, I had a guy actually steal my yearbook and take it home for Christmas and bring it back. I was like, he said, "Man, I just had to let somebody know I knew somebody from Dallas Carter." I was like, "Man, y'all are ridiculous," but it's amazing because when you really look at the historical aspect of Carter High School, not just the 88, but the type of people who have transitioned professionally, the type of people who've gone to college. We've had NCAA golf professionals, we have plastic surgeons, we have had surgeons, all types of people, DAs. And the thing about it is when people think of Carter and think of Kimball, they just think about football, and they forget that it actually during the 80s and the 90s was one of the richer areas in the Dallas metropolitan area.
Right, it's like DeSoto is
Absolutely,
now.
absolutely.
So, yep, you mentioned Redberry. You lived on Redberry Lane?
I do. I live off of it,
Oh,
about 3 blocks off
Okay,
of it
you
now.
don't got to tell nobody where you live. But I lived in that area as well. So
Well, I didn't grow up. I grew up by
You by
Daniel
Hulsey.
Park.
yeah,
So I went to Hulsey
Right.
and Humphrey Lee, which is the elementary school that
Right.
feeds in the Carter as well.
right. Is that down the street? Okay.
Absolutely.
So, how is it running for something that you just know this area backwards and forwards?
It
and doing
actually has become an enjoyable process because, like this morning, we walked blocks, and last weekend when I walked, it's amazing because my walkers are saying, "Pooh, we need a yard sign." This lady said, "My daughter went to school with you," or "I know him. He went to Hulsey. I was one of his teachers." So for me, it's like a small town effect. It's that boy who's come home to actually do what's right in the community. And it's without pay. It's based on what I know needs to be done. Even when I go over towards the Kimball area, a lot of my friends who cousins went to Kimball or who went to Daniel Webster in elementary and went to Brown Middle School, that was always a rivalry because the only thing that separated us was Loop 12.
Right.
You know, so it was almost like we were two whole communities that just separated by, a major thoroughfare. But I love it because it gives me an opportunity to give back to what I have gotten from that community. Like I said, I went to college, but I never left after that when I came back.
Now, my question here is regarding the construction subcommittee chair. What is that?
So each school district has been mandated by the state to have SBDM, which is a site-based decision-making committee. And it works in conjunction with the school principal to help give their opinion or advice about certain things. And you have subcommittees. So the subcommittee that I've been on is the one in reference to the construction. And in that process, we've been able to have conversations when allotted with district employees or district EDs about the things that needed to happen at Carter. But what we were finding out was that those things were being either stopped or halted for a time frame, and some of the things that were supposed to actually take place didn't happen. The biggest concern we had was there was a ticket that was given as far as the amount of money of $56 million. And what happened recently, I say within the last 3 to 4 months, I had a walk with one of the district officials, which when you look at district policy, they encourage community to reach out to district officials if there are concerns and have conversation if need be. And when we walked to school, that official was kind of like taken aback by the fact that for it to have been a $56 million package given to that school, he didn't say it, but you can tell by the fact that his ears turned red, cheeks were flushed. So that means he was not African American. But what he did say was, let us look and see what needs to be done. Well, there's what's called a punch list, and a punch list is something that you address for those final things. Well, Carter's package had been closed out. So the question again was, where was the $56 million? Because none of this work had actually been done like they said it was. So here's my phone. I'm just showing you, like, these are the chalkboards that you actually learned on. Mm-hmm. It's still in Carter. Those are those boards. So what we're seeing is basic stuff that should have been done, doors that were painted but not renewed or new doors put up. This is a dance hall for the girls. Old flooring. Walls still look the same. The library was gutted, and then they put rows and rows of chairs. So it looks like a 1985 study hall. And these, once again, they put dry eraser boards on top of the old chalkboards. So you want kids to excel. Does that look familiar to you, the auditorium?
Yeah, it looks the same.
It is. Yeah. It's the same auditorium you sat in the 80s. The problem with that is that in the bond, it was supposed to be redone. But our trustee said, just leave it like that and just varnish the seats, when everybody else got brand new auditoriums. So our question is, why minimize an area which is right along the border of all of the other suburban schools? And I tell people a lot of times, Carter and Kimball on several levels tend to not compete with other schools in Dallas. We tend to compete with the suburban schools as far as our students, as far as the type of education, all those different types of things. And our thing is, we need someone in the seat who actually is willing to go to bat for everything for the kids at Carter and Kimball's feeder pattern. Period.
Okay. Now, looking at your flyer again, how can they get in touch with you if they want to ask you a specific question?
So you can reach me at Stephen Poole Campaign stephenpoolcampaign@gmail.com. stephenpoolcampaign@gmail.com. I have about 4 emails right now, and I feel like a Twitter king right now. My thumbs are exhausted.
You on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter as well. Stephen Poole on Twitter. And I am open for all conversations. I am open for all dialogue. And I can answer virtually any question. And I'm the type of person, if I can't answer it, I'm going to find the answer so that I can help you with what it is you're trying to find out.
So now all of what you just showed me on your phone, that came from the bond. So what did Carter get out of the bond?
What they did was they built a new competition gym, and it was supposed to be a fine arts wing, but what they did was just build a band hall. The other issue or concern we had as a community was in the package, every new school or every school that has a new large facility built, you're supposed to build a fallout shelter for a tornado. Well, Carter has one. It's under the gym. The problem is there's no access to the fallout shelter from within the building. So if a tornado hits, the kids then have to go outside of the school around to the side of the gym to get into the fallout shelter. So now what they've called themselves doing, once we brought it to their attention with the new superintendent, they're trying to dig at the back of the gym and create elevators and stairs that will access it, so they'll go through the gym and come through the back of it. But this was something that was supposed to have been done in the 2016 bond. And here we are, 2023.
So that got said afterwards, huh?
That part.
Okay. Why?
We don't know. We can't say that this person or that person, but what we can say is that whenever we would ask certain questions, we were told by district officials that they were instructed not to have conversation with us, which
Who's us?
violates policy.
Who's us?
The SBDM, the subcommittee, or the PTSA. So now what's happened is our alumni association, which is headed by Kim, who graduated in '85. They have gotten to the point where.
What's Kim's last name? So those that are listening.
What's Kim's last name? I forgot Kim.
Rhodes.
Thank you, Kim Rhodes. And they've did an open records request, and they've sent them the paperwork, but they sent them like thousands of papers. It's kind of one of those things that they do or people do to make you not want to look through the work. You ask for specifics, but they send you so much, they hope that you'll just get tired and not look at any of it. But the question they're still asking is, why wasn't the work done, and where's the money? Because the money is not reflected in the work that was done. So it's not just the parents, myself as the PTSA president, now the alumni from 70, what's the young lady whose father actually wrote our school song. She's involved. I mean, they've all got involved in it, the old heads, because their concern is why not to knock you on their thing
I'm
is
feeling some kind of way, Steve.
what are they doing in this community? And a lot of times the people who live in the community, which are parents' age, they don't know these types of things because they're being told one thing. They're being told, well, it's an ongoing project. No, this project was closed. They closed this project with the hope that nobody else would ask questions. They closed it because they knew that the people in the community are older. They rarely come to the schools. So my thing is, I'm running for the school board for true transparency, for true understanding of policy, for true understanding of what equity is supposed to look like for our kids, what kind of program is supposed to take place.
All right, now we talk about equity for a minute. And I was driving by Carter the other day, and somebody was telling me that they want to put a warehouse, a truck. See, that's not even on here. See,
It's not.
that's the reason why I love my show. I actually love it because I get a chance to talk to people like you.
So
So explain what's up with that. They
So-
gonna put a warehouse or something right next to Carter?
what's
What,
happening?
down the street from Carter?
What's happening is there's an open field next to a church that's across the street from Carter High School, Friendship West. And that open field has been there since we were kids, even before they built Friendship West. And I guess the owners who owned it finally was able to sell it to a particular buyer. Well, the particular buyer had already had plans to create a warehouse, which would actually have where they, pick up freight or whatever on trucks. The problem is that's a residential area. Some people have asked, well, what's wrong with it? And our question is, why couldn't they have done this off of 35 and 20 where they have all the other warehouses? because what you're saying is that this area is not considered residential, and you really could care less about the welfare of children. Because now my thing is, zoning wise, are these trucks going to be able to travel on the road, that the regular street? What kind of emissions is going to take place? And I've talked to someone at Friendship West, and from my understanding, they've had conversations also, and they've asked about simple things like tree lines to ensure that they do something about the emissions, but that's not seemingly an option. So our fear is that they try to create an area that's more industrial than educational and residential. And there's a petition that's been going on. I don't know how successful it's going to be, because my understanding is the company or the people who bought it are still moving forward with the process. But it's kind of a heart-wrenching thing, because now you're talking about the safety of kids walking from school with trucks coming up and down a basic regular road. It's not a road that's right off the freeway. But, we'll wait and see if they'll halt it or if they'll move forward.
What can you do to help with that?
Really, I can't do anything but help circulate the petition that's out there. That probably would have fallen more or less on someone that's in the city council. They probably would have known about the property being sold, or they could have done something differently, possibly. But in reference to the city school board or the school district school board, there's nothing that we can do directly in reference to that other than fight with the community, alongside of the community, to hopefully deter them from putting it there.
All right. So that's the reason why you're here on the show. That way we get that out.
Yeah.
So as we get ready to close, we have a couple of minutes left to 3 minutes, they tell us.
Gotcha.
So 3 minutes.
So I'm Stephen Poole. I am an alumni from Carter High School. I am a product of Oak Cliff and that whole community. I'm running for DISD School Board Trustee Seat 6. I am hoping that you will take the time to research me and find out that my heart, my ability, my understanding is in the right place. I am there for children. I am there for educators. I am there to better the district for our city. I am here to make sure that Dallas ISD becomes one of the top-rated school districts in the country, not just in the state. Vote for me. I am place number 1 on the ballot.
All right. And you've been listening to the Commish Radio Show, loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, second to none. And we will be back next week. Thank you. Have a great week, and we will see you next Saturday, 4 to 6, right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the Commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Hey, how you doing?